so that we can have this available on our YouTube page after we are done, in case any of your peers or friends weren't able to join us live. But we are going to hear from Miss Kara. And again, if you're, I think I saw a couple more if you will feel free to be interactive as we are going through this presentation. If you have some questions, type them in the chat box. Or just take yourself off mute and ask Kara out loud. So you are welcome to do that as we proceed. So Kara, we will turn it over to you.
Thank you. So as you guys may know, my name is Kara Birdsong, and I am the Sales and Marketing Assistant here at Personnel Resources. I've been with the company about 4 years, and I've worked in several different positions. So it's a company that I love and a company that I'm passionate about. I love it so much that I worked here, and my husband and I got married and moved to Georgia for about 3 years. And when we moved back to Alabama, my first thought was, I have to get my job back at Personnel Resources. And luckily for me, they took me back, and I've been here about 4 years since then. So it is a company that I enjoy working for and I'm passionate about. And I do feel like it's a really good resource for our community. I feel like a lot of people don't know about us, or the things that they do know may not be necessarily true. I think one of the biggest myths about Personnel Resources is that you have to pay for our services, and that is not true. Our services are completely free to applicants. So we are a staffing company, so people hire us for several different reasons. It could be, and when I say hire us, I mean the company. So if a company is looking for an employee, they would pay us to help them find the employee. So it could be that they are busy and they don't have time to look for someone themselves. It could be that they have tried to find someone themselves and they have exhausted all their resources and they haven't found anyone. And then there could be other reasons, like a special project they have going on. If they have someone who will be out of the office on a maternity leave or something like that, and they're looking for a temp or someone, to fill in. If they have a busy season in our industrial side, a lot of people will see a peak during certain seasons, whether it be the holidays or summertime, and they might need additional staff for just that season of work. So they use us to hire temporaries for them. And that kind of leads me to another myth that people think about Personnel Resources, is that we are a temp company. We're a temp agency. And when we do hire temps, I always refer to us as a staffing agency, because we do lots of different staffing. It's not just temps. We do temps, but we do a lot of what we call a try-hire placement, which is kind of what it says. An employer is trying someone out to see if they want to hire them or not. So for your first 90 days, you work for Personnel Resources. You are a Personnel Resources employee, but you do report to the business, where you're physically working at. And in that 90 days, that's their chance to see, is this a good fit for our company? What kind of work ethic do they have? Can they show up on time? Can they do their job? That way they're not using their resources, they're using ours. So if it doesn't work, if they're 35 days in and they say, okay, this employee is not a good fit for me and my company or what I'm looking for, at that point, we can find them someone else, and the company has not lost out on anything, because they were never their employee, they were our employee. So that's one reason that people use us. And then what a lot of you would probably be interested in as you start to come out of college is what we would call a direct placement or a professional placement. So just as like I said, professional, a lot of the more professional jobs, for example, right now we have staff accountants, we have accounting managers, an interior designer, let's see, what else? An insurance clerk, a production assistant, a web developer, more skill-specific jobs that do take some kind of formal education or extensive experience. A lot of employers do those as a direct placement, and you never work for us if you are a direct placement. You go to work directly for the company. So at that point, the company would pay us what some people might call a finder's fee. to find them the employee, and you go to work directly for them. So I think that is one misconception, is that people are afraid if they come to us for work, it may just be temporary, it may not last, or they'll get moved around from place to place and things like that. And while we do have temporary jobs, not all of our jobs are temporary. We do the try-hires and we do the direct placement. So it is really important for you to communicate with one of our recruiters. You know, if you're only interested in direct placements, we hear you. So if you say, you know, I'm not looking for temp work, I'm only looking for this, we hear that, we work with you. We're not going to call you for a temp assignment. Has anyone ever heard of Personal Resources before I go any further?
You're welcome to speak up, or you can put in the chat box.
I travel in the spring. I do a lot of traveling to the high schools, and most students have never heard of Personal Resources. So I was just familiar if anyone had heard. Okay, you have not.
We can kind of read those for you, Kara, if it'll help you. So
Sure.
Troy says he recently applied there a month or so ago. And Felicia is saying that they have not. So, and Rajiv said, yes, they did. So you got a few that have. And I believe you guys have come to our career fair before. So you may have seen them on campus.
I have worked a career fair for you guys on the Troy campus. So that's good. One thing that I will be honest about and just transparent is it is kind of hard for us to work around schedules. So if you're currently in school and your classes are kind of sporadic, say you have a class at 8 and you have a class at 1, you know, it is hard. One reason that companies pay us is to find them employees that can work around their schedule, not the other way around. So it is kind of hard if you have sporadic class schedule for us to work around. I say that because I know Troy said that he had applied. But it is something that I hope you would keep in mind in the future, especially when you're done. We post all of our jobs on Facebook, which is probably in this day and age one of the easiest ways for you guys to apply. We update them all the time. You apply directly to Facebook. Our website is partnerwithexperts.com. I'm going to make sure that you guys all get that in a handout, and then our jobs are on Indeed. So because we are working for the employer, we can't always hire everyone. So if the employer says, I need somebody who can work 40 hours a week and you can only work 30, we can't place you in that job. So kind of how it works is you fill out your application, and then if we think you are a good fit, there's a couple of different things. Sometimes we can send you directly to a job. A business might say, I trust you guys, send me who you think is a good fit, and you go there. A lot of times, especially with the more professional placements, you are going to have to go. We kind of filter out the applicants. We send the company, we say, we have these 5 people, we think they would be a great fit for you guys. What do you think? And then from the resumes, they might pick 3 or 4. You would go interview there, and then they would let us know, you know, oh, I really like Emily, or I really like Lauren. You know, I would like to select her. So sometimes it is harder for us to find you a placement because it has to be a good fit for you, and it has to be a good fit for the employer. It can't just be, oh, I'm looking for a job, and we say, okay, we promise we can find you something, you know. So we try our best to help everyone, but sometimes the processes are longer for some people than others, just depending on what kind of openings that we have. So it's hard for us to determine what kind of jobs because it changes day by day. We tell people all the time, an opening that we had this morning may be gone by 3 o'clock today. And in our world, that's a good thing because it's our jobs to hire for the employers as quick as we can. So things are always changing. So it might be your lucky day and you might get a call back on the very first day because we have something that's a perfect fit for you. For other people, it may take a little bit longer just because we don't have job openings. But we never know when an employer will call and say, I need a customer service representative. I need somebody to start immediately. So when that happens, we start from the applicants we have instead of opening a huge search. So it is important that if you're looking to go ahead and get your application on file with us, send in a resume so that when we get something that is a fit, we already have your contact information established and we can go ahead and reach out to you. So even if you apply and you don't hear back, immediately, you're in our system and we're always looking for for a good match. Another
Kara, I
thing
was going
too,
to mention, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, you're fine.
Dylan had mentioned in the chat box, he's kind of in that position. He had applied through you guys. So do you guys hang on to those resumes for a
We
while? He's interested in one of those staff accounting positions, and he's a graduate of Troy. He graduated in May with an accounting degree.
Sure. So the applications, if you go onto our website, partnerwithexperts.com, and fill out a formal application, those stay in our system for 6 months. So you're good for 6 months. On the resumes, they don't always dump into our system. They're more out of recruiters' hands. So I would say if you're seeing a posting on Facebook or something like that that you're interested in, if you've already applied for one accountant position, but 3 weeks later you see another one, I do think it's safe to apply again because we do get a lot of applications. On the accounting positions, we do have one recruiter who works directly on direct placements. So that you would go through her, and she, like I said, she posts on Facebook all of those positions. So she always lists her email, and you can email and reach out to her. So as far as applying on our website, your actual application is good for 6 months. As far as if you see a potential job that you're interested in, it's always safe to apply again if you're just submitting your resume. It's a little bit different submitting your resume on a posting versus applying in our system, if that makes sense, filling out a formal application.
Yeah. Okay. I had a couple other comments. Troy
Sure.
said that he had graduated with his bachelor's in accounting as well. So a lot of interest in accounting. Do you have those accounting positions pretty regularly? Does that seem to be?
We do. We have a couple right now, some of which are professional placements, and some are what we would call a try-hire.
Okay.
It just depends on what the company is looking for. I will say that we have a really good rate on our try-hires of people getting hired on. As long as they go in, they do a great job. We see people get hired on all the time. So I know those direct placements where you're going in and you're going directly to work for the company. I know those are a lot more appealing, but we do have a good rate of people getting hired on with the company through the try hires.
And he mentioned he actually found it on Facebook. So thank you for that tip. That's great. And we've got a couple other comments about specific majors, human services, management, medicine. Kind of before we get too in the weeds, we definitely want you to finish what you're telling us about the whole company. And then maybe if you'll speak to some of the booming industries, the more popular ones. Yeah.
Sure. I will say, I know we talked about this at the very beginning, but everyone wasn't on. We do hire for about 100-mile radius of Dothan. So off the top of my head, I know we hire in Albany, Georgia, Panama City, Florida, up to Troy, Geneva. Those are some of the areas I know of right off the top. So we do get out and about. Not all of our jobs are in Dothan, even though we are located in Dothan. And in the past, we even have some jobs that are way far out of state, way South Florida, Mississippi, things like that. So there are instances where we would, do everything virtually, and you don't have to physically come into our office. So it's not just Dothan. I know earlier I mentioned that it's hard for us to work around school schedules, but I will say we do get some part-time work. So that's not to say that we can't help any current students. I don't want that to be misconstrued. I hope I didn't make it sound that way. We do have part-time positions if you have a schedule where your classes are done in the morning or all your classes are in the afternoon. So I don't want it to sound like if you're not graduated that we can't help. I will say some of the benefits of working with us are after 6 months of employment, you do get 4 major holidays paid. After a year, you do get vacation. After 60 days, we do offer Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance and benefits. So sometimes on the try-hire positions, where I said they bring you in for 90 days and they try you out, sometimes those run over. You might go into 120 days or 150, 200 days. It's hard to know. Sometimes the companies just are not in a position where they feel comfortable hiring somebody on, not necessarily because of the employee, but because of their own personal business issues, with how many people they can have on staff and things like that. So we do have employees who are still on our payroll, and they get the benefits, they get the vacation, they get the holiday pay. and things like that. I'll try to see if there's anything I left out, and I open the floor for questions because I love questions, and I want you guys to hear what you want to hear. Like I said earlier, there is no charge. We're at 5855 West Main Street in Dothan. If you guys are familiar with the area, we're at Brandon Stan and 84, about a mile and a half past Flowers Hospital. If you guys have something to write this down on, I will give you my email address, and you guys are more than welcome to send me your resume, and I will be happy to forward all those to our recruiters. Like I said, I do sales and marketing, but we all work as a team here, you know, to help you guys and to help each other. So a recruiter is who you would hear from, but I will be happy to get those resumes in. You never know if we have something that's a fit for you. It is K Birdsong, KBIRDSONG @prdothan.com. If you guys want to send me your resumes, I will forward those on for you.
I typed that in the chat box so everybody
Okay,
can have it too.
Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. I do have a lot of job openings that if you guys are just curious what we have, I can go over, but I'm more than happy to answer questions. And
We
I
have
know
a
I kind
couple
of fly
more.
through it because it's so familiar to me, but I know it's not familiar to you guys. So
a couple of specific industry questions. Do you see any coming in kind of the helping fields, human services, social work, case management type jobs?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
A lot, and this is why a lot of those jobs are funded by the state, or, you know, city, local governments, and they're just, a lot of times we're not something that they have in their budget. A lot of times, most of our job openings do seem to be more privately owned companies. Now, that's not always the case. I'm not saying we would never get that because we never know what we're going to get. It's not something we get on the day-to-day basis. Now, the health field is a little bit different.
Okay.
We do get CMAs, CNAs. We have had an RN from time to time, people looking for RNs. Of course, those are professional placements. You don't work for us. So we do get those, but as far as human services, we don't get a whole lot.
Okay. Anything in pharmacy or hospital locations was a question.
We do get, besides just the healthcare positions that I mentioned, we get a lot of administrative positions in the healthcare field. So right now I know we have someone looking for scribe. We do insurance, people who are working in insurance, clerks, tons of front desk positions, things like that. I know Ms. Brown mentioned earlier about networking, and not only is networking important, but sometimes you have to get your foot in the door. I know sometimes it is hard to take a job when you feel like that's not your long-term goal. But a lot of times we see people who are looking for something maybe in the health field, and they do take a receptionist job, a scheduler job, an insurance clerk, something like that, and they quickly make their way up in the company. So I feel like we are a great resource to get some information on your resume. It is our experience that when employers are looking for employees, it's not always what they've done, but that they've had a job. They love to see that you've had a job, even if you were working part-time in college. It just shows them that you're responsible, that you're serious about working. It shows a sign of dependability. So I do want to stress that if you're interested in our positions, even if it's not something that you see yourself doing long-term, it is a great way to get your foot in the door, get the experience on your resume, especially with our temp job. So if you've just graduated and you're looking for a professional job, but you haven't found anything, you know, if we have a 6-month, you know, receptionist position or something along those lines, you know, any kind of assistant, like right now we have a digital production assistant. So any of those jobs that, you know, you're interested in, it's good to get those on your resume. And I do feel like we're good about giving people that little edge they need for experience to get their foot in the door. and then they can work their way up. Besides clerical positions in the hospital, funny enough, we have a job right now at Southeast Health where we have people making gloves and masks. So I know that is more of an industrial, or not gloves and masks, gowns and masks, I'm sorry. So you never know what we're going to get. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has presented a lot of new openings for us. So like I said, we have people working in Flowers Hospital making gowns and masks. We also are hiring a lot of screeners right now for a company, taking temperatures, asking, COVID screening questions. And hopefully those positions won't last forever. I don't think any of us really know what the future holds as far as that. But I do believe that if you're looking for a job in healthcare, things like that are a great way to get your foot in the door, have some experience on your resume, and kind of let us be a stepping stone for you.
Definitely. We hear that from employers, that even if it's just something right out of college, or if you can work it out during school, just to have that on your resume, those are those years of experience that they ask for in that next job that you're applying for.
I tell high schoolers that a lot when I go and visit and talk with high schoolers. Sometimes they're almost embarrassed to say, oh, I cut grass all last summer. And they're almost embarrassed. They're like, well, I don't want to put that. That's not a real job. And I do encourage them to include that on their resume, because employers like to see that you have worked before, just because any kind of job takes dedication. And so they do like to see that.
Alicia asked, she was wondering if you guys ever partner with any of the federal or state organizations, or even beyond that, maybe nonprofits.
We do sometimes. We have hired for nonprofits in the past. I know that we have hired for like the Dothan Foundation before and things like that. Again, nonprofits have a very small budget, so it's rare. We do work with the Alabama Department of Rehab, which, obviously is a state department. We work with them a lot. And so that's the only one I could think of off the top of my head that we work with. Not because we're not willing to, it's just sometimes it's not in their budget. And in order, for our applicants and employees not to pay fees, the employers, the company, they do have fees associated, with using us. So sometimes it doesn't work out for them.
Any other questions? What other questions do y'all have, or anything you just want to ask Kara as an employer, kind of her take? Working in personal resources, I would guess you guys see a lot of resumes.
We do.
Probably do a lot of interviews. So any specific questions about that, and or what would you share with us about that, Kara?
Sometimes less is more in both your resume, your dress, your appearance, things like that. So personally, here at Personal Resources, we love a one-page resume. If you can get your resume down to one page, that's an A+ for us. You guys are older and more mature than the high school students that I talk to regularly, but dress your best, dress for success, things like that. When you come into an interview, they do matter. I feel like I probably don't have to say this, but in this day and age, we do have people who will check their cell phones during interviews, check a text, the phone rings, and smartwatches, they're constantly doing this during the interview. And I know that those things have become habits for all of us. It's just the world that we live in. But a lot of times when you're interviewing for a job, the person who's hiring you is probably a different generation, just because a lot of times the person making the decision in the company has been there for a long time. And they're not used to the same generation we live in. So the cell phones and the smartwatches and things like that, the distractions, things that our generation may not notice, they do notice. So I would definitely suggest, anything like that, leave it in the car. It's not worth it. As far as resumes go, we actually, on our website, there is a section called PR Career Academy. You can sign up for free. Not only does it give you notifications of jobs, there is a resume template. It's got interview tips, job searching tips, things like that. Again, it's completely free. PR Career Academy, and it will actually help you make a resume if you don't have one. I'm sure Troy gives great resources for that, but if you're looking for something extra.
Rajiv actually asked, is it okay if they send their resumes directly to you, to your email that we posted earlier, or what's the best way
So
to?
if you guys want to email your resume directly to me, I will forward it on to our recruiters. I don't work a lot hands-on in the hiring process, so you may not necessarily hear from me, but I will make sure that a recruiter gets it. So if you hear from someone named Emily or Anna Brooke or someone who's not me, do not be alarmed. That's totally normal. We have 5 recruiters here on site, and then our direct placement or professional placement recruiter is Anna Brooke. She works from home. And so that's who, once you apply to one of our jobs, the next person that you would hear from would be one of our recruiters.
And Kenneth asked about, do you cater just to the Dothan area? Will you just kind of recap about your area?
Sure. So we're open. You know, if someone in Birmingham called and said, "Can you guys help me?" We're more than willing to help them. But most of our jobs primarily are in a 100-mile radius. So we hire Dothan, Ozark, Enterprise, Geneva, Brundage, Troy, all the way down Bonifay, Panama City, Albany, Georgia, Donaldsonville, Bainbridge, places like that. So what most people would consider the wiregrass for the most part. But we are open. I will say almost all of our jobs require a background check and a drug screen. So you once you get offered a position, you do have to consent. Well, the drug screen comes after the offer, but before we place you, we do run a background check on everyone. The companies that's hiring, they kind of set the precedent for what they're looking for on the background. Some people are more flexible than others. Our policy as a company as a whole for anyone to work with personal resources is just no violent crimes.
What other questions does anyone have? Okay. So we'll go ahead. You were going to say something.
I was just going to say, I actually went to Troy. I graduated from Troy. When I first graduated, I did not get just a job straight out of school, like I was saying earlier. I moved home. I moved back in with my parents. I went to work at a daycare. And while I was at the daycare working, I looked for a job. One day, someone said to me, "Have you ever tried personnel resources?" And I said, "No, I don't know anything about this company." And they said, "Well, you just fill out an application and they match you to a job depending on what openings they have." So I said, okay. So I applied, and within a few days, someone called me and said, "This is Anna Brooke at Personnel Resources. We got your resume, and I was wondering if you would want to come in for an interview." And I said, "Sure." So I came in, and I'm thinking that I'm just going to interview for a job. So a lot of times if someone has a great resume, even if we don't have a specific job in mind for you, we bring you in for an interview just to know you a little bit better, and we can put some notes on file so that we can kind of start our search, because sometimes it's hard based just off a resume. So we'll call you in for an interview even if we don't have something specific in mind for you. But anyways, I came in for an interview, and that's what I thought it was, just a general interview for them to try to figure out if they could place me or not. And they actually hired me to work here. And I thought I was just interviewing for a temp job or a try hire. So I say that to say you will never know what you will find with us guys. So it is definitely worth a shot.
That's a great story, and great to know you're a Troy alum. So you have that in common with Kara, and we often tell our students that that networking piece. Often Troy alum are ones that really don't mind helping you or hearing from you, just like she's willing to do this call with us today and give you her email address. So that commonality of going to Troy is really, really helpful a lot of times.
I did see someone just ask about how to get notifications for the job postings. I have a handout on it that I can probably forward to one of you guys, and you can pass out. I don't know all the steps right off the top of my head, but you can go onto our website, partnerwithexperts.com, and there is an option where you can subscribe to job postings. So every time we post a job, you do get an email Like I said, I don't know exactly where it's at on the website. I can't remember, but I do have a step-by-step handout on how you find that I'll be happy to send to you guys, and you can blast out.
Great. Yeah, they're all saying thank you, and you should have a couple of resumes in your email from Dylan. It looks like maybe Troy, a few other people when we get off this call. So those will be waiting for you. I did have one specific question from Kenneth about HR positions. Do you ever see some HR entry level?
We do see a lot of HR assistants come through. I don't know that I have any right now. But like I said before, you never know what's going to happen. So I could literally walk out of this Zoom and get back to my desk, and we would have a whole new job opening. People call us all the time. So we do get a lot of HR assistants, but we're kind of an HR company. So, we hire HR assistants here, not a lot. We keep a pretty steady staff, but you never know. So definitely keep us in mind for that, because you could be the next me. You could apply for a job and end up working here. So we do get, that is definitely something that we get a lot of in.
Okay, Kenneth. He said thank you. Any other questions or anything else you would leave us with, or Donna or Emily, anything you guys would like to add?
I just want to say thank you, and you definitely reiterate a lot of what we tell students. So I think it's good for them to hear it from another perspective and from a fellow Troy alum, and just hear some of your tips and tricks. So thank you for joining us today.
Good. Thank you guys for having me. I will leave you with this. Some of you might have saw already, but we hire over 4,000 employees a year, which is a lot. And in a 12-month period, we hire for over 200 companies. And, I hate to name drop, but just to name a few, Southeast Health, Coleman, Dunbarton. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Dunbarton. It's a door plant here in Dothan. I know you're thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to go make doors, but they have a customer service department. They have a human resource department. We do a ton of jobs for them. The list just goes on and on of really big companies here in Dothan that you may not realize that we hire for, but we do. One other quick thing I'll say before we leave, we have a sister company called PR Employer, and what they do is just HR. And so you might start a job with a company that has nothing to do with us, and when they send you to do your paperwork or onboarding, you might end up here at our office. So we do hire, we do the paperwork and the staff, not the staffing, but the HR side for a lot of companies in Dothan that come to us. So that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. But we do a lot.
That's really interesting to know.
Yes, we run their payroll and things like that. So
Kara, this is a really great resource for students. Thank you for taking the time to share with us and share with our students. And I think, as Lauren and Emily said, with you being an alumni, there's a connection there. And we tell students all the time that Troy alum are willing to help, and they're more than willing to help you. So just reach out and thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing that with them.
Thank you. And guys, if you apply with us or you send in your resume and you don't hear back immediately, or even if we send you on an interview and you don't get the position, don't give up on us. Don't get discouraged. We really try. Sometimes it just takes a while to get a perfect fit. So if you apply and you don't hear back from us as soon as you want to, don't give up